This is its financial history too, where money's past reveals tomorrow's truth. Most people believe debt is simple. You borrow money. You pay it back. End of story. But what if that story is incomplete? What if debt was never really about money at all? What if debt is a mechanism, not for growth, but for control? Here's the uncomfortable mystery. Across history, civilizations didn't collapse when they ran out of resources. They collapsed when they drowned in debt. Empires with fertile land, skilled labor, advanced technology all brought to their knees, not by invasion but by obligations they could no longer escape. And strangely, the same pattern keeps repeating, even though we claim to live in a more advanced financial world. So tonight's question is not how debt works, it's who it works for. Because once you understand debt, you start to realize something unsettling. Money moves power, but debt locks it in place. Welcome to its financial history too. To understand why debt is about control, we need to step back, far back, to the earliest civilizations that ever recorded numbers. 5,000 years ago, in ancient Mesopotamia, debt didn't begin with coins. It began with grain. Farmers borrowed seed from temples and palaces to survive bad harvests. The agreement seemed fair, repay after the crops grow, but when droughts came, repayment became impossible. Debts rolled over, interest accumulated, and suddenly land, labor, and even family members were seized as collateral. This wasn't accidental. Debt created dependence. Kings quickly noticed something important. You don't need an army to control people if you control their obligations. So rulers introduced debt jubilees, mass debt cancellations, not out of kindness but survival. Because when debt grew too large, societies imploded. Revolts broke out. Productivity collapsed. The system devoured itself. This should have been a warning. Instead, debt became more sophisticated. Coins appeared. Banks emerged. Paper promises replaced physical goods. And over centuries, debt quietly transformed from a temporary tool into the foundation of entire economic systems. But here's the twist most people miss. At no point did debt stop being about leverage. It simply learned to wear a nicer suit. Origins: how debt became power. 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Fast forward to medieval Europe. Gold and silver were scarce. Kings needed money for wars, castles, and courts. Enter private lenders, merchant banks like the Medici. They didn't rule kingdoms, they financed them. And whoever finances power controls power. Loans came with conditions. Interest created dependency. And when kings defaulted, lenders gained influence over taxes, trade routes, and policy. Some monarchs tried to escape by expelling bankers or refusing payment. Most failed. Debt had teeth now. Then came the real breakthrough: national debt. Instead of borrowing personally, rulers transferred obligations to the state. Citizens became responsible for debts they never agreed to. Taxes ensured repayment. Armies enforced compliance. Debt was no longer a private contract. It became institutionalized control. And this idea crossed oceans. The rise modern financial empires. 10 o'clock to 18 o'clock. In the 17th century, the Bank of England introduced a radical concept: permanent government debt. Instead of paying it off, governments would roll it forever. Bonds, interest, refinancing, an endless loop. Why was this revolutionary? Because debt stopped being a burden and became a business model. Banks could create money by lending it into existence. Governments gained funding without raising taxes immediately. Wars could be fought without public resistance because the cost was delayed. But delayed doesn't mean erased. By the 20th century, debt had quietly replaced money itself. The gold standard collapsed. Currencies floated. Central banks gained extraordinary power, setting interest rates, controlling liquidity, and deciding which institutions lived or died. Money became credit. Credit became debt. And debt became the operating system of the global economy. By now, entire nations were running not on productivity, but promises. The breaking point when debt consumes the system: 18 o'clock to 25 minutes and 0 seconds. Every debt system eventually hits a limit. The Great Depression wasn't just a market crash, it was a debt implosion. Borrowers couldn't repay. Banks collapsed. Confidence vanished. Governments responded with spending, funded by more debt. Then came World War II, the largest debt expansion in history. Victory didn't eliminate debt, it normalized it. Fast forward again. In 2008, the global financial system nearly collapsed. Why? Too much debt. too little real value. Mortgages were bundled, leveraged, re-leveraged, and sold as safe. When repayment failed, the illusion shattered. And what happened next revealed the true nature of debt. Banks were bailed out. Debts were socialized. Losses were transferred to the public. Debt didn't disappear. It changed owners. This wasn't a failure of the system. It was the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Fallout: who pays the price? 25 minutes and 0 seconds to 32 minutes and 0 seconds. Here's the brutal reality. Debt always demands payment. If not in money, then in power. High national debt means reduced sovereignty. IMF loans come with policy conditions. Austerity cuts social spending. Wages stagnate while assets inflate. Individuals feel it too. Student loans delay families. Mortgages chain decades of labor. Credit cards convert survival into interest streams. Debt doesn't just extract money, it extracts time. You don't work for wages anymore. You work to service obligations. And because the system depends on expansion, debt can never truly be paid off, only refinanced. Failed fixes. Why solutions don't work. 32 minutes and 0 seconds to 38 minutes and 0 seconds. Governments promise reform. Debt ceilings, regulations, inflation targets. But none address the core issue. Debt is not a side effect. It is the engine. Raising interest rates slows growth, but increases default risk. Lowering rates fuels bubbles. Printing money devalues savings. Every fix creates new distortions. Because the system cannot survive without debt, and cannot survive with too much of it. That's the paradox. Modern parallels. The pattern repeats, 38 minutes in 0 seconds to 45 minutes in 0 seconds. Today, global debt exceeds $300 trillion, more than 3 times global GDP. Governments roll deficits indefinitely. Corporations survive on refinancing. Households live paycheck to paycheck, leveraged to the future. And the same warning signs appear: asset bubbles, currency devaluation, political instability. Rising inequality. Debt concentrates power upward while risk flows downward. Just like ancient Mesopotamia. Just like medieval Europe. Just like every empire before collapse. The names change. The mechanics don't. Takeaways: clear conclusions. 45 minutes and 0 seconds to 48 minutes and 0 seconds? So what does this all mean? Takeaway 1. Debt is not neutral. It is a tool of leverage, social, political, and economic. Takeaway 2. When debt replaces productivity, systems become fragile, and collapse becomes inevitable. Takeaway 3. Those who control debt control decision-making, not through force, but obligation. Final warning and open question. 48 minutes and 0 seconds to 50 minutes and 0 seconds. Debt isn't evil, but unlimited debt is a quiet form of domination. The real danger isn't borrowing. It's forgetting who holds the ledger. Because history shows us one final truth. Empires don't fall when they lose wars. They fall when they lose control of their obligations. And the question we should be asking now isn't how much debt we have. It's who benefits when it can never be paid back. If this changed how you see money, history, or power, subscribe to its financial history too. Because the past isn't dead. It's still billing us. And understanding it might be the only way to stay free.